Voter registration has kicked off in the Democratic Republic of Congo as the country prepares for the December 2023 general elections. Almost 50 million people across the DRC's 26 provinces are expected to register to vote over the next 3 months.
The Democratic Republic of Congo has launched a nationwide voter registration exercise a year ahead of a crucial general election. President Felix Tshiani is expected to seek re-election after a first term marked by economic hardship and a resurgence of rebel activity in the east. Almost 50 million people across the country are expected to register to vote over the next 3 months. Logistical challenges of holding an election in such a vast country with limited resources were felt early on. As registration opened in the first 10 provinces on Saturday, long lines were seen and stations were undersupplied. Mike Samala had stood in line for at least 6 hours.
Some people have been present since 8 a.m., 7 a.m., and now it's already 3 p.m. There is still no machine here. We have been here since 9 a.m. and there is nothing. It's not possible.
Congo's Electoral Commission rolled out a new cell phone pre-registration system to speed up the process and prevent the long queues that formed during past polls. Iris scans have also been added to limit fraud. But according to Reuters reporters, most registration stations in the capital Kinshasa failed to open as scheduled due to a lack of staff and material.
Professor Noel Tshiani is a DRC presidential candidate and a former country director at the World Bank, and he joins us via Zoom from Kinshasa. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program. Thanks for your time.
And thank you so much for having me here.
All right, so the voter registration has begun, and it certainly has started with a few problems. Does that raise concern for you, or do you think these are just teething problems?
Well, the registration process has begun, and I had myself the opportunity to register yesterday. And when I went to the registration booth or station, I found many people in line, and they were screaming, as a matter of fact, screaming angrily because they had been waiting for hours without having the chance to register as they wanted. So I can say that there are some concern. At the same time, when I got into the registration booth, everything went so smoothly that I got my registration card within 15 minutes. I have it here. So I noticed that on the registration card, there were some insufficiencies. For example, the card itself is in black and white color. And when they take his picture, I didn't recognize myself on that picture. So the picture looks just so ugly. So I don't know how they will be able to make the distinction between two different people who, even if they don't look alike, but it is quite a little bit difficult. So I will say that those difficulties are the difficulties maybe at the beginning. As we go into the process, the CENI might have the handle on what they are doing, and perhaps they will correct the mistakes that we are encountering at the beginning. But so far, things are a little bit fuzzy. They are not as smooth as we would like them to be.
The last elections were highly contested, and some would even say that a fair result wasn't delivered. There's been improvements in terms of technologies deployed and used to register people this time around. Would you say that these have been improvements, despite the problems that you're describing? Because ultimately, you want to ensure a free and fair election so that the people's will come through in the end. Have the improvements in the technologies given some assurance that there won't be as much of a dispute as the last election?
Well, there have been some improvement, but at the same time, we are still encountering some weaknesses. I had the opportunity myself to meet with the president of the CENI, Mr. Denis Kadima, 2 weeks ago. I went to see him to get assurances that the process this time is going to be better than what we encountered in 2018. He told me that while the time frame to organize the election by December 20, 2023 seemed to be very short. For example, in 2018, it took almost a year to register all the voters. This time, we are planning to do all of that within 3 months. But he explained to me that the technology which is being used now is much better than what we had in 2018. And he is confident that the process is going to lead to a much more reasonable result than what we had in 2018. As I try to protest and get from him the assurance that no, things are going to go as smoothly as we want, he told me, don't waste your time. Go ahead, have your people registered and compete in the election, because those people who are just contesting, protesting for everything, they will be left behind. So if you want to get any good result, go ahead and have your people registered as soon as possible. That's what I'm doing now.
Talking about people getting left behind, it's one thing to deploy new technologies and make it easier for people to register, but it's a whole different ball game, particularly in the east of your country where there are security issues. How are those people going to get a chance to vote if the security is a problem?
Yeah, that is a big concern, not only for myself. It's a big concern for the people who live in the East, who must be given the opportunity to participate in the election process. It is also, it is also a concern to CENI itself. I raised that issue with President Denis Kadima. He told me there are certain things that he doesn't control, notably the issue of the security in the East. And our hope is that by the time we reach the election date, the East will recover from the insecurity that it's going through now to be able to organize the election in a peaceful manner. But I don't know how all of that is going to play out, even during the registration period of time as we go now, because many territories, there is no way of deploying the CENI machines or specialists to go and do the registration work. So those are the areas of concern that we don't have control over. We just hope that the process for bringing peace and stability in the East, which is underway now, is going to lead to having a right result as soon as possible so that this process is not jeopardized.
Tell me about the Congolese people. Are they enthusiastic about registering to vote, or might some apathy come through given what happened in the last results and maybe some of the frustrations already experienced in the registration process now?
From what I have seen, by just driving through some registration centers, I can see that there is some enthusiasm in the sense that I see long line people waiting to go and register. And people here are motivated to go and register for two reasons. Not only because they want to participate in the election process and participate in the selection of future leaders, but also the voter registration card is used as identification card, because we don't have a national identification card that everybody can use. If you go on the street and you find a policeman who want to check who you are, they are going to ask you the voter registration card. So for those reasons, many people are enthusiastic to go and get the registration card to be able to have just an identification piece. But in addition to that, they do participate in that process to be able to vote for the next candidate at the presidential level, at the legislative level, and at the local levels.
Let's talk about you. Why are you running?
Well, officially, I have not announced my candidacy yet. It is expected to take place possibly in the second half of January. But if I decide to run, which is most likely to be the case, I believe that Congo has had problem of governance for many years, since it got independence in 1960. And when you look to the leaders who have led the country, most of them did not have much experience nor education to be able to bring the country out of the poor governance. I have been lucky to be sent overseas by the government of Zaire or of the Congo many years ago to go and study. I got my PhD in economics in good universities, Université de Paris 9 Dauphine. I went to Harvard to get postgraduate degree in leadership and management. I worked as a commercial and investment banker with JP Morgan Chase in New York. I worked as country director at the World Bank. I believe that I have a lot of experiences which has been lacking in most of the country's leaders for many, many centuries. I do have a development vision, the Marshall Plan for the Development of the Congo, which calls for the rule of law, good governance, and accelerated development and investment in different sectors of the economy, rebuilding infrastructure, and investing massively in human capital, meaning education, health, and so on and so forth. So I believe that I do have that unique vision which can make the difference as the Congo wants to move out of mismanagement to get into good governance and then create wealth for all the population.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck, and I look forward to more conversations with you as the time draws closer. But for this evening, merci beaucoup pour ton temps.
Merci beaucoup for having me here. Happy New Year to everybody in South Africa, but also at SABC.
Thank you so much. We'll chat again soon. Good night.
Thank you.
All right, that's presidential candidate there, with Professor Mwandi Mvita, who's a DRC presidential candidate, former country director at the World Bank, and talking to us about the voting registration process, which has kicked off a couple of days ago, and certainly having some difficulties at the moment, but he says that he's confident, and the head of the Electoral Commission there says that, look, go out, register, things will be fine.